proper side lane influence if the Jax is packed up with the counter-strike. The effectiveness of the Sylas we have seen be all right. Generally hasn't been a hard counter, but teams have been able to wield that very well. As T1 now, with what has already been picked up for them, as you pointed out, they can definitely flex the Graves, but thus far hasn't really happened. And pinching the jungle pool here for Inspired is really important. Inspired has been maybe not having the impact that someone like Jankos has had thus far in the tournament, but he has definitely been one of the most well-performing members, most stable performing members on EG, and making sure that he doesn't get a matchup that he's looking for is a good way for T1 to kind of keep EG down.
Yeah, and so the engaged support, Tahm Kench, going to be banned away from Keria here. And of course, Tahm Kench Senna is probably one of the oldest Senna lanes that we've had thus far. I expect something a little bit more interesting to come out from the bottom side of the map. We know that Keria likes to flex his champion pool, and there are so many things that you can play alongside Senna, my favorite being Maokai. We'll see whether the tree comes in. But the Nocturne going to be banned away. Yet another level 6 jungler for Inspired. And of course, the Darkness plus Destiny combo is terrifying. No pun intended, with both Twisted Fate and Nocturne on the team.
Really hard to match as well for T1, even with that Sylas already being picked up, as the Vlad ban has been rising in priority as a Gwen
the pseudo counter. Yeah,
it has been. I'd still see T1 just default to cannon here. Zeus is one, incredibly comfortable in the pick, and has piloted with much success into the Gwen previously. Another pick that I don't necessarily love for the matchup into the Gwen, but I love overall, would be the Camille, but Gangplank looking to come out here, and is a pick that has been very highly prioritized throughout the tournament, has slowly dropped a little bit, as initially it was basically banned every single game.
Yep.
And now we start seeing it get through the drafts more and more.
Well, the Yuumi being considered right now for Vulcan as well. Of course, Ezreal Yuumi, one of the more famous Ezreal lane or Yuumi lanes. This one I like a whole lot more, but we're just cycling through some enchanters, and I'm making the mistake of talking about hovers, but Brad's going to come in. Ezreal Bard is a lot of power towards that bottom side of the map, some extra sustain there as well, and all of that funny business that you can throw down with things like the Tempered Fate, and that buys time for Destiny Gate to come through. I actually really like this pick, even if it is a little bit fragile there on the bottom side. Not a lot of engage options here for EG thus far. We'll see what Inspired's going to be picking up. It's going to be the Viego, so definitely a lot of map play necessary here for EG to get things working the way they want.
And that is actually a piece of criticism that I've had for T1 with how they've been underperforming, is drafting these style of comps where when you catch someone in a rotation, when you're the one with control on the map, this EG comp is insanely strong at choking out vision. Generally, we don't see the Nautilus actually pick up any farm in lanes like these.
It hasn't been since Doinby that I've seen the Nautilus with farm, but that was quite some time ago.
Once upon a time,
it certainly was. It was actually, that was my favorite way to play the Nautilus. You know, you play, you lock in the Astro Nautilus skin, you get the Moby boots, and you just hop around the rift. And in my case, not necessarily being all that valuable. But this is a very interesting draft. Looking over the side of EG, I like the idea. The execution is going to be very difficult, but you can see how it would work. So much is on Vulcan, making sure that these Tempered Fates are going to be in the right spots, and the setup is going to be there.
Addition to that, the ability of EG to punish misrotations from T1 is incredible. And honestly, T1 this tournament has been punished so many times.
Yeah.
RNG was a really good example as well. G2 did it expertly. So I'd be a little worried for them. And T1 going to a little bit more of a standard composition, front to back, with still some skirmishing power with that Sylas.
And the best thing about EG's composition, in my mind, is I looked at the draft yesterday, especially the one against G2, and I was like, I don't necessarily understand what this is supposed to do. You look at this draft and you're like, you get it.
I get
completely.
it. I understand this.
Like, we're playing some side lanes. We're going to do some Brad shenanigans. We're going to take some magical journeys, and we are going to catch T1 unawares. And that is definitely something that they're going to be able to do if they can get their ducks in a row, if they can make this composition work the way that it's supposed to. It's not a front-to-back team-fighting composition. This is definitely more of those smoke and mirrors necessary. But T1 as well. I mean, this is another one of those compositions, another one of those times where I'm like, feeling a bit better here for T1. They've got that very powerful Gangplank. Of course, Zeus, not necessarily known for his Gangplank in the LCK, but has picked it up one time here at MSI. But Oner, very comfortable on the Graves, and we've seen Faker do some amazing things on this Sylas. And Keria might be unlocked here. As you can see, it will be the fasting Senna. And so Keria is going to be a bit tankier than you'd otherwise expect on the Nautilus.
Can't remember the last time, because we have seen some Senna lanes, particularly from Guma and Keria, and seeing them go for Nautilus here, especially when Keria plays things like Zac, which I would be very excited to see.
I was hoping for some trees. I was hoping for some Majin Buu. It would have been fun, but not going to get that just yet. I think maybe Keria is saving some excitement for later in the week. Of course, this is the end of the first half of our first round robin, of course. Yeah, we're closing out. These next 3 games be the last time. Then it'll be rematches. See whether some revenge can be picked up from a lot of our teams here at MSI. Chainlash comes out. But Jojopyun probably going to be fairly okay for the first few levels. We've seen that Sylas can certainly get some surprises done even early in this matchup.
Notably here, both teams have the same amount of information, with the top side invade from T1, bottom side invade from EG, both placing down wards on the respective blue buff. So full knowledge here for both teams of where the junglers are going to be, which in practice should lead to a relatively eventful early game. But we have seen, and the most successful example of this obviously has been Jankos, junglers kind of moving away from those timers, moving away from the expected clear, the expected pathing, to punish aggressively. And this ward from EG is going to confirm that Oner definitely still on the expected path here.
Yep, you can see T1 actually aware of where that vision is as well, pinging that one out. So no surprises between the two as Zeus and Impact fighting it out here. Of course, Gangplank pretty powerful early, just parlaying with the Gwen. And not exactly too psyched about it, as you can see. It's Gumayusi down to sub 200 here on the bottom side. There is a great chain from Faker. Looking for Jojopyun, gets him to under 200 health himself, but with that range, should be able to still stay relatively safe farming it out.
Notable here also that Faker has gone for the teleport. With Ignite, he might have had a little bit more threat there, but not going to be the case here. Inspired, spotted there, and Oner going to cover with both Faker and Jojopyun backing. Don't expect there to be any heavy contest there. And with Oner in the area, Zeus also completely fine to shove out this wave on top side.
Ooh, max range hook here towards the bottom side of the map. Another snare to come through. Flat, Arcane Shift coming out from Danny. Not going to be flashing just yet, Atlus.
And you might think that we have a horse in the race for LCK casters as hold up, Zeus no mana, but gonna be fine.
Piercing Darkness coming through. Vulcan taking a fair bit of damage here. Not a lot of mana for himself, as T1 reclaiming some control towards this bottom side. And look, this is looking relatively like a T1 patented early game, but you can see in the gold, EG still holding on pretty nicely, and it will be a 1-for-1 scuttle trade as well. So the shellfish count going to be absolutely fine. Ooh, barrel not going to land, but another parlay comes through. Not a lot of mana here for the Gangplank, though.
Notable here, Impact, of course, having the Ignite advantage. So Zeus needs to play this very respectful, with the ward also going to take a little bit of minion damage, but they don't want to take the risk. As I was saying, you might think that we have a horse in the race because we're LCK casters, and we do. But the real bet is what happens pre-5 minutes in that bot lane.
Hey, that's true.
You're in deep trouble, Atlus.
We only have 30 seconds. Well, to be perfectly honest, no, that bet was something that that I didn't have the right amount of information for. And let's be honest, me and bets, I'm not very good at them, Chronicler. As you can see, I'm missing a fair bit on the top of my head.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
When that happened.
Yeah. Well, some say it was your fault. Which is completely untrue, but I like it.
I wouldn't say that personally, because it makes me feel really bad, mostly.
No. Well, it wasn't your fault. You know, it was definitely on me. But the amount of people who are like, "Oh, I can't believe Chronicler made him do that." I'm like, "Oh, you didn't, guys. This was all me. Hey, I can take responsibility."
You can frame it as I made Atlus lose his hair. I made you save your stomach. That's a win.
That's true. Because I didn't have to eat my shoe, and that's you know. That wouldn't have been all that fun. Faker going to be tidying up that mid lane, though. Jojopyun just hanging out. Both of our mid laners with their teleports on cooldown. But no flashes down from anyone just yet. Nothing like that. Still pretty slow here in this early stage of the game. Oner hanging around. Ward goes down. And not going to be able to clear it as Inspired. thinking about trying to get a bit of damage onto Faker, but he successfully makes it back to his tower. And we are once again going to be in comfort LCK territory. Chronicler, I'm really glad. I mean, I know it's like only 6 minutes into the game, but still, things very tense. Not a lot of action happening just yet. And after a day like yesterday, it feels strange to not have action erupting all over the Rift.
Well, we're on the desk, and I also assume that we're going to get the immediate Cloud Drake
I hope
the
so.
moment. Yeah, I know you do.
I mean, no. We'll get a Mountain next, and then it's Cloud Soul.
Okay.
Dream. We haven't had. There's been barely any Cloud Souls so far.
I want to talk about the game, Atlus. I know.
Okay.
I know you feel very strongly about this. I mean, I get it. I know your love for Cloud Soul runs deep, but with now more backs coming through and 6 being hit on a lot of the global ultimates, Faker has a fake one, Zeus has a real one, Jojopyun has a real one, and Vulcan is Bard, so he's just a global champion.
Yeah.
I'm expecting to see a lot more action around the first objectives. That Drake, although it has mostly been disregarded by T1, they put a little bit more focus on that objective during this tournament, but particularly that Rift Herald. How are we going to see both of these two teams set up? Because I do think the EG comp, again, if T1 doesn't respect where Jojo is, if they don't keep good track of Inspired, and Vulcan can hit a early piece of CC, and you blow someone from T1 up, with how T1 have been playing thus far, I'm pretty sure that they are then going to contest 4 versus 5, and then lose.
Well, I mean, it's very, very difficult. The amount that EG can follow up after a pick is just absurd.
Yeah.
With things like Viego being able to get those resets, but not to mention the mobility that you get with something like the Bard. Even Impact's chase potential is very high as Faker thinking about throwing a fake Destiny towards that top side. Will not commit to it. Just threatening. Decent bit of vision there. Was available from EG. Do like how they're protecting Impact. He's certainly very important to this team and so far performing very, very well against the T1 young top laner. And
in the context of the game, it makes sense, but seeing Senna roam while a Nautilus stays in lane feels peculiar. Herald spawning coming up soon. Do expect EG, as they get shoved in here, to try and contest that, but they might also go for the counterplay, put a lot of pressure on Keria towards the top side and try to get some plates into Vulcan, as there is the fake Destiny being used, but
I mean, it's not fake, it's just stolen, as the chain is going to be dashed out of the way from.
Is it counterfeit?
Yeah, I guess. It's hijacked.
That works.
I'm very confident in the fact that it's hijacked, knowing the name of the ability. Other than that, don't know quite as much. As Keria's going to find a hook here on to the Twisted Fate in the mid lane. Decent chain to come out, but the flash comes through from Jojopyun. Vulcan in the area perfectly. Will be able to save his mid laner, but that is a flash down on the Twisted Fate. Fake is going to return the favor, though, so neither mid laners with that option.
A little disrespectful from T1 there to try and actually shove in that wave. When they were taking Herald, can just let that wave go, and then you don't have to use your flash. Overall trade still going firmly in favor of T1, as with that roam from Keria towards mid, going to be having enough pressure, picking that up early.
Yep. Zeus just shooting Impact over and over again. Now that that Sheen has been picked up, it's going to be even more frustrating for the Gwen. But of course, when that Leeching Leer comes in, it will be a little bit better with the added sustain that Gwen will have for herself. Jojopyun, as soon as he enters Fog of War, T1 do need to be careful. There's now Impact going in. Trial by Fire, I believe, down onto the Gwen now as well as Oner comes on over. Needlework is out there, flashes forward, and that's going to be first blood for Zeus, continuing his amazing run here at MSI.
With the lack of vision and no defensive summoners available, big risk that you're taking there as Impact going forward so far. And I was just going to say, T1, they can probably get some plates, but getting an actual first turbot looking rough as Guma.
Yeah, this is looking rough as well. Chronicler is now Faker. He's got the Destiny Eye on top of him. Gold card comes out, the Piercing Darkness, not enough healing whatsoever, and EG fight back.
And Guma getting taken down is a prize that EG is going to be very happy to take. Unfortunately for them, overall trade still firmly in favor of T1, as with that Impact death, so much gold going into Zeus, who has been, by, I'd say, a large margin, the most consistent performing member of T1. And domestically, Zeus got basically no attention, and he didn't need attention, because again, T1 basically unchecked within their own region. But here at MSI, it's been such a different story, and I'm happy to see T1 actually pay way more attention towards their best performing player. Guma, unfortunately, at least doesn't use the flash. He's used a lot of those in plays where he shouldn't in the matches thus far. So at least holds on to that, but exactly showing what EG wants to do, which is pick off those stragglers.
Yeah, well, our MasterCard Mythic is going to be the Trinity Force as we have a look at the replay of this first blood. And yeah, Gangplank pretty powerful at this stage of the game, but committing to the flash gets the parlay, and Gwen was unfortunately not immune.
And I think also a fake sense of security there, possibly for Impact, because Jojo was roaming up. And if a Twisted Phase is roaming towards your lane, you're going to feel a lot better about it. Guma walking alone into enemy territory with no one to really back him up. Unfortunately, just gets taken down immediately. Nicely done there. And those type of mistakes right now are not too consequential. But the EG comp is going to be able to do this regardless of how far we get into the game. And it continues a trend of the type of mistakes that domestically T1 just didn't really seem to make as they pick up the Drake here.
Tempered Fate going to be flashed there from Gumayusi, not wanting to take the risk. So now the Senna largely going to be a sitting duck as this game continues. EG now continuing the push towards the bottom side. Keria in position, Inspired wrapping around as well. Looking like a bit of a 3v3. There's the flash over the wall and the pick comes in! Keria locks down the kill after the Dawning Shadow does a lot of damage. The magical journey will be followed by absolutely everyone as Faker has got the inside track. The Cosmic Binding is amazing from Vulcan, and Danny finishes off the kill. Arcane shifts out of the way of the hook, and EG will walk it out.
Wonderfully done there by EG. The green from T1 to go for that as Zeus.
Yeah, Impact fighting the Gangplank here, and the needlework, that last one not landing. Dashing forward, let's see whether Zeus can win the 1v1. Trial by Fire is so powerful, and that will secure it. Solo kill for the Gangplank top lane.
Jojopyun though, he's looking.
Can he dive the turret though? Oranges are there, and Gangplank has a habit of being K after eating them.
Little carried away there after 2 successful plays. Yeah, top side. Unfortunate play, even with the Ignite advantage and the ult advantage. Zeus having already finished his Trinity Force. Not a necessary play, but this is a really nice punish there from EG when T1 overextends. Forcing the flash here is nicely done. Again, you see the attempt from Inspired to roam around and maybe look for a good skirmisher, as they should with the composition. And then this pick off T1, that part's great. Inspired is on vision, Keria flashes over, and they hunt it to zero in. And then they follow Bard through the portal.
Yeah,
and there's not a lot of rules.
Yeah.
That's one of them.
Don't chase Singed and don't follow Brad through his portal.
You can't. And really nice ultimate as well from Danny. Being able to actually pick off Faker there, who was hiding behind the rest of his teammates. This little less fortunate. As, yeah, like I said, maybe if you hit all the needles, you might be fine here. But in the extended trade, with the item advantage that Zeus has, this has really taken your matchup from not great to real hard for Impact.
Yeah. I believe what you were looking for there is bad to worse.
I'd like to stay positive, Atlus. Sue me. I needed this tournament, okay?
No. I liked it. You were going for the different way, and I enjoyed it. As T1 possibly in trouble yet again here, as the Tempered Fate is going to be avoided. That is the smallest little dredge line from Keria, and is obviously not going to be enough to get him out to safety, as he is left out to dry. EG evening up the kill score yet again, and they are not down by too much gold here at all as we crest the 15-minute mark.
I'm loving EG, because with this type of composition, you're going to be always looking for those type of plays, and consistently going towards the T1 bot lane that has had so many struggles. Works out really, really well, really hard for both Guma and Keria to get away from that Tempered Fate when they don't have the flash available. And it is definitely a top-side win for T1. EG on the bot side getting a huge lead there, as we can see. Of course, with Senna lanes, there always be a little bit of disjoint in terms of gold. But suffice it to say that Danny, he's feeling very well nourished.
Yeah.
He's got a turret. He's been given over a couple of kills. And that is a really good setup for EG as they get into the later parts of the game, because the T1 composition actually does have an issue getting on top of that Ezreal. That's why I don't know if I actually was able to mention it, but also thought about the Camille in the T1 composition rather, because it's one of the very few picks that can actually reliably deal with Ezreal, or besides Kai'Sa, but we've seen that happen a lot.
Yeah.
This tournament.
And these are two players that don't necessarily like the Kai'Sa all that much. Tempered Fate is going to find Gumayusi. Let's see whether this is a kill for EG, and absolutely it is. Oh dear. Absolutely nothing the T180 carry could do, and that's precisely what this comp was built to do from EG.
It's just really well done. EG continuously keeps using their long-range punish with the Tempered Fate, and they have Jojopyun roaming around. Inspired and Vulcan have basically been inseparable this entire game. And it's not going to lead to an objective, but what I love about this comp from EG is that when a player isn't having a great tournament, focusing the ever-living hell out of me is not nice, but it definitely gets results. And that's what EG has been able to do here with Guma, who you were actually the one who pointed this out. Guma domestically had a, what was it, 28% damage share of his team?
Yeah.
It's 21 now, and the meta shift of away from Jinx and Phelios into the Kai'Sa and...
But I mean, if it moves to an Ezreal meta, I mean, the highest damage share numbers I've ever seen have been Ezreal.
Well, exactly. So, so it's still bad.
I don't think you can. There aren't too many excuses. It's it's just not the Gumayusi that we've been used to seeing.
Continuously killing him is great, is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. Well, let's see whether Gumayusi can get himself back into that mindset. And you can, and honestly, he hasn't had too many answers so far. To the things that EG have been trying to do, and I don't think it's necessarily on him.
See that Drake?
Yeah, no, it's a mountain, and then it's a cloud.
Okay.
What were you expecting? I've read the script today, as Jojopyun
Very well
can get out of the way of the Gangplank, and Oner will be able to secure it, and it is an Infernal Drake. So definitely much more fun. Drake. Definitely much more fun than the Cloud Drake, but not necessarily my personal favorite. As Zeus picks up the tower on the bottom side of the map. Faker looking for a back, as well as Oner. We'll see whether Jojopyun's going to be able to do anything here. Of course, Skullcar's not as threatening to a Gangplank. Keria's Locket does get finished up. And Gumayusi just trying to farm things up here in this mid lane. See whether the Senna can get online. Of course, still a fair bit of soul farming has come through, but as you can see, he takes a lot of damage.
Soul count also not looking particularly great. Only sitting on 51,
only 51
right now. Yeah, it's just a bad experience for the T1 bot lane, and that kind of beckons the question: which team actually got the better hand of this early game? Because in terms of gold, there is clearly neither team that has been able to really break away.
But when have we been able to say that for a T1 match so far? I mean, it feels like even in games that T1 loses, they have at least a 3,000 gold lead.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah. That has been one of the main characteristics. So EG managing well in that regard, I think in of itself is a big win. On the flip side, I do feel like T1, when it comes to the overall composition, is going to have a lot easier time in the late game. There are some really well-scaling parts of EG, Impact most notably, and the Ezreal, as I mentioned previously, will be hard for T1 to get on top of if they don't have something like a Stolen Tempered Fate, like a Destiny from the Sylas, but it is a little harder to execute. You do need to have all the pieces in motion, and you need T1 ideally to, again, have someone roam away from the main team. Be able to pick them off, start those resets for Inspired. Also, Zeus went Hullbreaker, and that is a clear sign that T1 is presumably going to be looking for split pushing, which into the composition of EG is a, I'd say, ill-advised move, because they don't really want you to group.
But I mean, yeah, no, I don't have very many positives here. As Zeus is going to test out his new Hullbreaker here. Keria is going to ruin it for him as Tempered Fate comes down. That is going to be Oner, though, in the back line, seeing what they can do. Cannon Barrage is absolutely fantastic, and Inspired has to break his stopwatch to stay alive. Gumayusi now back with the team in the phalanx. It's been reformed. A stolen Tempered Fate comes down, and Bard gets a taste of his own medicine. Gumayusi picks up the kill to get some revenge. Shirley will go down, but T1 1-0 in the fight.
And the smokescreen from Oner was so big there, not actually allowing EG to immediately pick off Zeus. That would have been a huge boon. If they 100-0 him, he's the most fat member on T1. Him going down would mean a surefire win for EG. Unfortunately for them, not quite working out that way. And while the first two Drakes going over to T1 have not been the biggest issue, we do see here again, the front-to-back teamfight from T1, I think is incredibly hard to play into. If you don't 100-0 someone, the healing that Guma provide is going to be a big problem. And Zeus, if he gets off a couple of barrel combos, even with Hullbreaker, it's going to hurt a lot.
No, it absolutely is. There's another thing that I kind of want to talk about a little bit, because I imagine a lot of people are saying like T1's got a lot of physical damage. Things like this certainly can be a problem sometimes. But of course, you know, Sylas is there, but going to be building a lot of utility in the earlier stages. But I mean, no one on EG is going to be building anything remotely defensive. So it's not as much of an issue necessarily, but still something to keep in mind as this game goes on.
You are getting a lot of value, as we can see from the amount of armor that's already being stacked by EG, right? Them being able to pick up multiple targets and try to deal with the... Especially when Faker isn't actually targeting you, because Sylas single target damage is amazing.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But, in a team setting, it's not nearly as impressive until like late game, where you can steal Ezreal ultis and whatnot. It is definitely rough, and that actually adds to Zeus going for a more tanky build. It's very consistent, but it does mean that those one-taps, especially against the squishy members of EG, is not going to be as reliable as it might otherwise be.
Well, Impact is going to come on over, take down that control ward as well as the barrel and the brush. And yes, 30 seconds until soul point for T1. They desperately want to lock that one down, get some control on this map, because if EG get map control, this composition capitalizes on it so incredibly well. True Shot Barrage to come through from Danny, just to tidy up that mid lane as best he can, get a bit of added information. As Zeus with his Scryer's Bloom sees exactly what's going on, but EG are stacked up. Keria going to buffer the dredge line very nicely to get out of the way of the Tempered Fate. A big tool now not there for EG, as that's a max range dredge line. Arcane Shift from Danny. He flashes to get out of the way as well as Faker. Off to the side, the Dawning Shadow will help take down the Ezreal. Another dredge line comes through from Keria, but the stopwatch is there for Jojopyun. It's not going to do enough as Faker just dashes out of the way. And Zeus is underneath the turret. He straight up does not care about that extra damage. And the barrel does so much work. Impact is so low, and T1 wipe the fight.
And Danny is the one person that can't die on EG. He can't go down first. Their most fat members, so many resources invested in getting him ahead, and him getting taken down means that T1, even though Impact, who has been put so far behind, gets them dangerously low, they lack the crucial damage. And it might have been a soul point, which is unfortunate, but not the end of the world. But instead, T1 pick up the Baron.
Well, Inspired's going to pick up the Drake. He's going to die, but they deny soul point. So I guess there's that. Baron goes over to T1, though. And now there is so much pushing power. And EG with a composition like this, very difficult to play into that Baron at the same time, because they're the team that wants to be playing those side lanes, and T1 now with a big advantage.
And looking forward to the replay of that fight, because I think Faker's angle that he found with the Destiny was pivotal in actually definitively locking Danny down. And even with the Arcane Shift, even with the Flash, him not being able to get out there was what secured the skirmish. Now T1 going to be able to pick up so much standing gold, and a game that has been relatively even now, 7k gold lead for T1, as Zeus clearly, you know what, that damage is overrated, Atlus. we're utility gangplanking here.
Yeah, that's what it's all about. You know, you got to get all of those safety items first.
Okay? Yeah. He has free items.
I mean, Trinity Force by itself is tons of damage. My friend David told me about that. As T1, they do get themselves out of the way. Tempered Fate will land, but no follow-up is going to be available. Now they'll move themselves back. The Baron being utilized beautifully here as Zeus is going to take down the inner turret on the top side. Claims that, and now he's just a brick wall, denying EG any access to their topside lane. Another dredge line's going to connect as the Destiny does come on through. They're trying to take down Zeus. The barrel, the Gangplank ulti, just absolutely massive. And Zeus 1 versus 3 will walk it out against EG. Oner's going to take down Danny now, and I think it's all over, but the crying T1 wandering into the EG base, and it felt close until it absolutely wasn't.
Who needs Bankplank when you can have Tankplank? Zeus gets collapsed upon, and it doesn't matter at all, because I think that's the play you need to look for as EG. Try to desperately find someone that isn't with the rest of their team, pick them off, and use that momentum, but unfortunately, wasn't enough.
No, Gumayusi going to try and get some revenge here against his bottom side counterpart, Inspired. Yeah, he's going to be representing Rogue here as the Nexus goes down, and T1 bounce back after a difficult day yesterday and claim 3rd place here at MSI 2022.
And it's a really big victory for T1 because, understandably, the stakes going into this match were so high for both these two teams. Previously to Rumble stage, we're like, yeah, you know, AG looking like a fourth team. No one would have been surprised by that. But instead, this could have been a turning point for them. Instead, it might be the start of a turning point for T1 as they regain some composure, regain some momentum. And even though I think AG continues to improve in every single game that I see of them, at crucial moments, team fights just don't work out.
It was there is so much upside to take away from EG in this game as well. It was one of the least dominant early games for T1 thus far.
Large margin.
Yes, EG had a composition that was going to be very difficult to pilot, but they were beginning to make it work, and there are just a couple of these mistakes through that mid-game that the whole game just ran away from them, right? Zeus also playing absolutely amazingly on this Gangplank with his Hullbreaker build, and a well-deserved bow here for T1. One step closer to regaining themselves here at MSI 2022. You could imagine they're happy with this win, but it's not nearly enough to make them happy with their performance so far.
Because a lot of the issues that we have seen for T1 were still visible in this game. Particularly Gumayusi, whose performance unfortunately just hasn't been to what we have come to expect from him within the LCK, going up against people like Ruler and Deft, who I'd argue are pretty good at the game.
Yeah, I'd say so.
And he looked really good. And thus far, this tournament, not so much.
It's not necessarily been his tournament, but before we head back, be sure to check out the game comms from G2 and EG's match yesterday in Sounds of the Game